episode of At the Bar with Podcast. I am Patrick, one of your hosts. We're here with Brett and Gene. Stacy is usually our third co-host, but he had some obligations today. I believe he's mountain hiking in Iran, and he'll be back next week. But we're here with a great guest today. His name is John Robinson. He's a bartender extraordinaire, really. I think he's gotten me hammered downtown a number of times over the years, but he's from Sunshine Consulting. He offers cocktail classes and can also come in and advise your business on what the hot drinks are right now and what you should maybe have on your menu. So, John, you're going to be behind the bar today, which is usually Brett's spot. So, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks for having me here, you guys. Cheers.
Well, so the big deal is today I'm sitting in the normal spot of the guest, but since we finally have an actual barman at the bar instead of me, the bartender, we've got John going to demo a drink for us today, so everybody can see how it's done. And I'm going to turn it over to you, John.
Oh, well, thanks so much. So when I do my cocktail classes at Sunshine Consulting, a lot of times what I'm trying to teach other people is how you can make great cocktails at home. And a lot of times, like the trend in the bars right now is to go to infuse something, to have it acid changed or milk washed or something like that. Very few times are bartenders teaching people how to use common things at your home and be able to make a drink that tastes as good as it would if you go out to a cocktail bar. So it's actually not that hard. So when we think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like right up my alley. I know how to do, your basic rum and Coke, but it'd be nice to do something like a mint julep or whatever those things are.
Great cocktail.
I wanted you to make me a pink squirrel, but I don't have the ingredients.
Yeah.
So John had me go out and get the ingredients for a special cocktail. I do like my whiskey. I like my bourbon too. So, John, what are you going to make today with the bourbon?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a standard whiskey sour. So when we with an egg white though. So if we think about what is a cocktail, the first time you see the word cocktail is actually in 1806 in a New York newspaper where they define it as a stimulating liquor composed of spirits of any kind, sugar, water, and bitters. So when we think about what is in a cocktail, we always think about four different things: a spirit element, a sweet element, a bitter element, and a water element. Now, if you always know how to kind of mix those together, you're always going to come up with a great balanced cocktail. So whiskey sour is really emblematic of how you can take common things at your house and make an amazing cocktail. So what we'll do is we'll have bourbon be our spirit element, lemon juice be our bitter element. We think about lemons, they have a pH of like 2.4, right? Think water is 7, right? And then our sweet element is going to be maple syrup, right? We kind of all have lemons at our house. We all have maple syrup at our house. And this is going to utilize egg whites too. We all have egg whites at our house, or we have eggs.
Yeah, can you explain
if we
that?
If we can afford it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, $8 for 8 eggs.
Yeah.
There was a newer bar restaurant that opened up about 5 years ago today. It's still my favorite go-to spot, but they actually were into the cocktailing thing, and they actually hired a really good bartender, and he would take his time and he would make it really special for anybody. The service was slow, but it was like an event when he gave you your cocktail. But that was the first time I ordered something where he starts doing an egg white, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? I just wanted don't you just do whiskey and then sour and then give it to me? And no, this is the proper way you do it. And I'm like, holy shit. So I was this many years old when I first had my drink mixed with a freaking egg white, and I didn't know that was like the standard.
So that
should be the standard.
Yeah, that harkens back kind of when we think about like the mid 19th century when they're getting their whiskey. Most inns or bars are getting it just in a barrel. They're not getting it bottled as we get it now, and they're also not getting it diluted. Over the past like 150, 200 years, we've really developed technology and char levels and distillation and heads and tails and all this different stuff, and where we age it and what temperature we age it at and all this stuff. So in the mid-19th century, when you're getting that whiskey, it's really harsh to drink all by itself, right? So we want to make it a little bit more potable. When we think about mixing egg white into it, we're kind of expanding those flavor molecules, making it easier for us to drink, right? And so an egg white lemonade is a popular temperance drink in about the 1850s, 1860s. So what we're doing here is we're basically adding whiskey to an egg white lemonade. And so, which, hey, in the 1860s, that's probably what an egg white lemonade is. Someone can fact check me on that one. No, I'm just kidding. Just
I'll fact check you.
Yeah,
You know your shit.
yeah. The amount of alcohol Americans consumed back then.
But it's a raw egg white.
Yeah, it's going to be a raw egg white.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes people get a little bit worried about that, the whole salmonella thing. I always like to remind people we eat a lot of raw things every day. You eat raw lettuce, raw melons. That if they're pre-cut, that lettuce is pre-shredded. There's a lot of chances for salmonella to grow in that as well. You kind of look back at like FDA recalls, you're mostly going to see like fruits, vegetables that are going to be recalled, and maybe even raw meats from salmonella. Rarely are you going to see those eggs being recalled. It's kind of like as long as your egg has stayed along the cold chain, it's okay to eat. I always like to, when I give a cocktail class, I'm like, if you cut up a honeydew and leave it on your counter for 2 days, are you just going to walk over to it and be like, this looks good, I'm going to eat it? No, right? And so that's kind of the same thing with raw eggs, right? As long as you've kept it in your refrigerator, treated it how you're supposed to treat raw things, you're going to be all good. So.
Now looking at all of the stuff that you've done, I mean, you're fully insured, $2 million. You're certified food protection manager,
Wow.
Serve Safe alcohol handler, Bar Smarts graduate, and Safe Sports certified. So, I mean, you got all these certifications. So these are some big deals for a lot of people. So I know that, I worked in the restaurant industry, and I worked with John here for a few years at a bar that was downtown. But, I don't think people understand how much certification goes into being able to do what you're doing, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's like the food certification manager that like every restaurant has to have one person on staff when they're open, and it's usually like the chef or one of the head cooks or something like that. I just got it, so if I'm ever helping out at a restaurant, I can be that guy as part of my consulting thing, and then also like when you're selling any kind of food thing or delivering food thing, like at my bartending events and stuff like that. If anything ever goes wrong, like the insurance companies have always said, like if you got that certification behind you when the state comes in, you can be like, hey man, I'm certified. Like I know what I'm doing with my stuff. But yes, I meant
They should give you like a badge. You just flash your badge.
Yeah, right.
Can roll it in.
CFPD, man. I don't know if I got that acronym right, but yeah. So basically speaking, a lot of this stuff, and just in restaurants, generally speaking, insurance industry is really running a lot of these things, and that's kind of the reason we're getting those certifications. But also, as we kind of progress in our cocktail knowledge, I'm a member of the United States Bartenders Guild, and we have like events every month where we have some different nerd talking to us, or like a spirits developer or something like that. Yeah, we're just a bunch of nerds talking about nerd stuff in our nerd quarters.
So for this episode, should we have like the legal disclaimer? Kids, if you're going to try this, make sure your parent is with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mommy, can I get some whiskey and an egg?
I should also say, thanks for the segue, Patrick. I should say that if you don't want to do bourbon and you want to make this as a non-alcoholic drink, you can just take tea and over-steep it. You can do like 2 tea bags and a cup of warm water.
Tea bagging.
Yeah, you can just tea bag this cocktail. Okay, kids, this is officially, you just don't listen. No.
Thank God this is an adult podcast. So, yeah.
I don't know what that meant.
Yeah. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
But yeah. So I suppose I should probably make this cocktail, huh? Unless we want to nerd out more about bourbon and.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more, but
okay,
why don't you explain the drink as you go, and let's see what you got.
Okay, sure. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna. I gave you a shirt. A common thing is people are like, how do I prepare a cocktail? Like, do I shake it or do I stir it? How do I know when to do it? And a common adage that we have in the business is shake citrus, stir everything else.
And it's this one right here.
Yeah.
If you want to take a look, here it is.
Yeah. So if you ever forget, I have a shirt now.
Citrus, stir everything else. Nice.
So when you think about your cocktails, your margaritas, your cosmopolitans, your whiskey sours, stuff with lemon or lime juice in it, we like to shake those cocktails, right? And then those more spirit-forward cocktails, your old fashions, your Manhattans, your Negronis, we're stirring those cocktails. And shaking or stirring does actually three things. It lowers temperature, it adds water, and it changes texture. So we're kind of doing a lot of things when we shake and stir.
What about a martini? I've seen that done both ways.
Yeah. So just a little FYI, we are segueing into the martini land. I give martini classes that are 90 minutes long. So however long you all want to talk about martinis, I am happy to do it.
Absolutely.
But
no vermouth. No vermouth. Yuck.
So thinking about James Bond or Ian Fleming's character, right? When you think about like he goes into like Q's lair in the bottom, right? And they design a car for him, and Q's like, all right, Mr. Bond, no matter what you do, when you drive out of the garage, do not press this button. I always say, what's the first thing James Bond does?
Presses it.
Presses the button, right? Give me a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. I'm going to order the wrong spirit because if we think about 1940s, 1950s, the new cool spirit that all the movie stars are drinking is vodka, right?
And that was gin at first, wasn't it?
Exactly. Your original martini is made with gin, right? And so he's got this new cool spirit that all the movie stars are drinking, and please shake it, don't stir it, right? And so this is how James Bond. I'm going against the grain, a different spirit, shaking it, not stirring it, and that just changes 3 generations of martini drinkers. I don't know. I
just screwed everybody up.
or you know what? However you like your drink is the best way to have your drink. So like I always say, if someone walks up to the bar and says, "Can I please have a martini?" and gets up and goes to the bathroom, so I have no other information besides that, I am going to give them 3 ounces of shaken vodka in a Y-shaped glass with 3 olives on a skewer, right? That's what I understand that most people understand as a martini, right? Now, if someone comes in and goes, "What kind of vermouth do you guys use in your martinis?" Then I'm like, okay, maybe this person wants a gin, vermouth, orange bitters. They've read a couple of cocktail books, or they're a bartender or whatever. So they want that kind of martini. And so that's the experience that they want. As a bartender, our main job is just whoever comes into our bar leaves feeling just a little bit better than they did when they came in, right?
They're always going to feel better.
Well, after a few of your drinks, absolutely. They're going to. I worked with this guy, so I know I felt a lot better after leaving, after he served a couple. So
that's why you got home so late.
So walk us through that whiskey sour.
Yeah. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start out with our spirit element, right? And it's going to be bourbon. If we think about umbrella categories of spirits, whiskey would be one umbrella category. Bourbon is one style of whiskey.
What kind of bourbon is
that? Angel's Envy?
This is actually going to be Woodford Reserve is what I have. So I always like to say, there's Japanese whiskey, there's Scottish whiskey, there's Irish whiskey, there's Canadian whiskey, and there's bourbon whiskey, rye whiskey too. We could keep it going, right? But there are different rules that different whiskeys follow. So like bourbon, has to be a product of America, has to have a mash bill of corn of at least 51%, right? Mm-hmm. Has to be bottled at over 80. Okay, there's like 7 different rules that you need to follow.
Wow.
Anyways, but
I break all the rules.
Yeah. Most important thing, it's got to be a product of America, right?
That's right.
So that's going to be our spirit element, our abrasive element, right? So then we're going to get into our bitter element. Bitter element, we're going to do.
Is that 1 ounce or what?
Sorry, that was 2 ounces.
2,
or 60 mils if anyone's watching on the other side of the pond. So our bitter element, so 2 ounces, and then well, I'll get into it later, but 2 ounces, and then the juice of half a lemon. Half a lemon or a lime, as long as it's normal sized and wasn't grown in like whatever, insert whatever sarcastic comment you want to make about pesticides and in citrus. But
I think Brett washed those.
Oh, I did. I wash everything after going to the store.
Thank you. Yeah. So the juice of half a lemon is generally going to give you 3/4 of an ounce. So if you look up most cocktail books or whatever, that the standard of spirit, sweet, bitter is going to be 2 ounces of spirit, 3/4 ounce of citrus, 3/4 ounce of something sweet, right? Now, when we add an egg white to it, we increase that sweet element a little bit just because we're going to have more volume. And so that gets into my sweet element. Right? What a segue.
I didn't know, and you put maple syrup in a cocktail.
Yeah, exactly.
Never known. Never. I mean, I've never thought of honey. I've done and seen, but not maple syrup. And I'm just like, ooh,
That's cool.
Yeah. So when you think about spirit element, mezcal, tequila, whiskey, rum, those all can be your spirit element in your cocktail, right? And then when you think about citrus element, lime juice, lemon juice, grapefruit, right? You can fudge with all that. And then when you think about sweet element, pancake syrup, simple syrup, demerara syrup, jelly, right?
Oh,
you can put grape jelly or raspberry jelly. Like I always like to say, if you don't want to make a raspberry syrup, have Smuckers do it for you, right? Just get some Smuckers. So I'm going to do 1 ounce actually, just because, that was like 3/4. There we go.
Now, the difference between, say, like what you have there is like it's like pure honey, like I think it's Vermont. It's just like regular maple syrup.
Yeah.
But can you use, if you're in a pinch, like Mrs. Butterworth's or some of those other
Absolutely.
Ones that aren't really true maple syrup, but kind of flavored that way. You can use those. Okay.
Absolutely. Just anything sweet, agave, honey. And when you do with honey, little bartender secret, add a little hot water to it to kind of make a honey syrup, because that honey is very viscous, might stick on the outside of your shaker tin. I actually, because I'm on a podcast and my order of operations is a little bit off, I usually do egg whites first. But hey, what the heck? So now I'm going to get the egg white and I'm going to put it in a separate thing.
Yeah, this is awesome.
There we go.
You're going to have one later, aren't you, Patrick?
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it.
And the funny thing
voice,
is, I was a bartender.
Just been sick, so.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, that's the frog in Patrick's voice is because he's been ill this week. So I'm glad that he weathered through to do the podcast. But I'd been a bartender for probably 20 years, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make is. You have bartenders. I work for TGI Fridays. I work for O'Donovan's Irish Pub, The Refuge, a bunch of different places. And you learn how to make drinks. But it's truly amazing to have a barman or a bar woman that makes specialty crafted cocktails.
He's crafting it, actually.
Yeah, and it's like being a chef. Equate it to that because, chefs come up with different ways to do things with food. And, barmen and bar women who craft these cocktails have to come up with these recipes as well. I think it's just amazing how you can infuse these flavors, but it takes so much education on what flavors go with what, just like a chef, you're doing years and years of schooling before you even get into the kitchen, So I'm really impressed with this, and I couldn't wait to have you on to see some of this, the recipes that you do.
Okay, let him do it.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And chefs, generally speaking, are our bartender's best friend, especially when we're looking for those different flavors that go together, or sometimes when we're just like, chef, what are you ordering right now?
Because you pair it with the food.
Yeah, you can pair it with the food, and sometimes to lower your overall cost, you can be like, all right, chef, you're ordering a whole lot of red pepper. All right, I'm gonna
like
make
when you go to a restaurant and they have a flight, and then they serve you like 7 different little mini meals, and then they have a separate beverage to go with each.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Just always looking to pair things, make things a little bit more efficient at the restaurant, etc. So when we think about doing egg white. Basically, what you're going to do is you crack the egg on the equator. Now, you don't always have to do it in the shaker tin, just because I've done this probably more than 10 times. 1,000. I'll probably get it first try, but sometimes I say if you're doing this your first try, maybe do it in a glass, and then you can dump the egg white in, because you don't want any shells, you don't want any yellows, as I like to say, yolks, right? The yolk is gonna kind of give you that flavor of like wet dog, old money.
Gross.
And so so that's why we don't want that in there. If we do end up, there's a different style of cocktail called a flip, where you get the full egg yolk in there. We just kind of make it a little bit differently. So I'm gonna.
That one's just called the Rocky, right?
Yeah,
the Rocky?
that one's called the Rocky. So when we do it here, I'm just gonna move my mic over a little bit, kind of crack that, and then you like that, and then you just pour the yolk back and forth. And as you pour the yolk back and forth, the white just naturally falls out. If you had an overhead camera, you'd be like, woohoo, there's the white.
Woohoo! Yep.
So you'll have to trust me that the white is in there. So then we got it all. Now, there's different nerd techniques on shaking egg white cocktails. One style of shake is called a mime shake, and that's where you close it up, you shake it first for about 20 or 30 seconds, get that good foam going on, and then you add ice and reshake it again to cool it and dilute it a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never suggest that for new people, because it doesn't create a suction that first time. So you really got to hold this together. A cocktail class one time convinced me, like, hey, just let us do the mime time. Like half the people like started shaking and exploded everywhere. And I was like, yep. Another way that's kind of comes from Minnesota a little bit is called a reverse mime, where you shake it with ice, then you just single strain it back in to one side of the shaker, and then you shake out the little shards. Or you dump the big ice cubes, then shake out the little shards, right? Mm-hmm. That takes a little bit longer. So I'm sure other bartenders have come up with this technique, but I came up with a technique of just putting like 3 ice cubes in and shaking them out. And so since I'm on the podcast, I'll say that I came up with this technique, but guaranteed some other person.
I want to hear the shake.
Yeah, right. So everybody at home, when you shake a cocktail, I always like to say, shake cocktails like you're meeting someone for the first time. If you meet someone for the first time, you don't shake their hand like this. Right?
Ew, gross.
That's
gross.
Creep.
So I always like to say left hand on bottom, right hand on top. This is, of course, if you're right-handed. Shake. Have the shaker tin be horizontal to the ground, right? And then we just shake until that's out. If you want to be the one-handed shake, just make sure you got 2 fingers on top, 2 fingers on bottom, so it doesn't explode or whatever. And basically,
that's what she said.
Yeah. Thank you for that low-hanging fruit. Yeah. But yeah, we're just gonna basically shake the cubes out. 40 seconds will be good if you don't don't totally shake the ice out. But this usually, by telling people to do this, it usually gets them to shake it long enough and get enough foam. So here I go. I'm going to shake. Woohoo! And work on my shaking. Yeah.
Do you do a dance with that too?
Yeah, right. That's extra.
You know, I always like this part, especially if you've got a very attractive female with a low-cut shirt on at the bar when she has to do that.
Oh, God,
like,
really?
She's getting a bigger tip.
Well.
Sorry. You know me. I have to be inappropriate at least once.
Of course.
At least. And I also like to say, when you shake this long, your hands are going to get cold. You might get tired. Rub your belly, warm up your hands, take a break. It's fine. And then finish shaking. It's all good.
Okay. There's about 6 more inappropriate things.
I know, me too. I know. You go first.
I'm not.
Even though this is an adult, podcast.
You go first, Patrick. Because
if you shake it more, if you shake it once, it's okay. If you shake it twice, and then if you shake it 3 times, you're playing with yourself. But, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember the whole thing, but yeah, you get it.
All right, for sake of time, we'll call that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can kind of hear there's still a couple of shards in there, but we just crack that baby open. And now you can have this on ice or not on ice. Kind of depends on what glassware you have. I'll do this not on ice for now.
So this is just one drink.
This is just one drink.
Wow.
So we're just going to
Only took 20 minutes.
out. Yep, only took 20
Yeah.
minutes.
I'm just kidding. No, in real time though, you could probably bust this out in 3 minutes, maybe or less.
And
Less.
you could probably do that in a cocktail glass if it's no ice.
Yeah,
correct?
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. At any rate, like when I design menus, it's like 30 seconds of execution time. So I'll have either the egg whites already pre-done, or there's different types of powders that are vegan that we work with now too, where you just, you have the citrus fresh, but then you have the whiskey and the syrup already pre-batched. So you're just going boom, boom, drop, shake, strain, send. Gone.
You're kind of like a Gordon Ramsay, or there's that bar saving show where the guy walks in and it's a shitty bar, and so you could actually take somebody like that's doing it wrong, give them something new to do, and teach them how to do it. That's pretty much your gig, right? Like
yeah,
that's pretty fascinating.
Like this is gonna cut down on. It's going to increase your profits, cut down on ticket times.
Sure.
I mean, and
yeah.
A lot of people, you just need to tell this like one time. You just need to sit down in front of them for an hour, like do this, and boom, you just saved $30,000 for the next year. But we've thought of it. They haven't. They've got a restaurant to run. So at any rate, so speaking of kind of that wet dog, old money, when those egg whites kind of warm up a little bit. They're going to start giving off that. So that kind of that smell. So that's why we like to put bitters on top. So a lot of times when you go to restaurants and you order an egg white cocktail, it's going to have a couple of drops of bitters. Now, I haven't opened this before, so I don't know what this has here. Open sesame. All right, it does have a dropper. So we can be all like fancy and do like little cocktail art if we want to. Come on, drop out. This must be brand new.
It's brand new.
Okay.
Is there a seal that you have to?
No, when it's brand new, it's harder to get just like that single dropout. And so, come on. Now it's not. There's no drops coming out. Oh well.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right.
A little bit shaky.
So that was like what, 2 drops?
That was 3 drops.
3.
And basically, what I'm going to do is just take like a chopstick and just draw a line through all of them, and then it'll kind of make like little hearts. There you go. Kind of look okay.
So there's some foam on the top.
Yeah. There's so that's half of the thing of egg white is having like that nice layer of foam on
that
top.
Head.
Yeah. You got to have some good head.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
That's why I like. See,
there's my cue. Hang on.
Yeah.
No. I like Guinness. We have Guinness Drought in the bottle, and then the ones in the can with that. What's that thing?
The nitrogen.
I have to have the cans with that nitrate thing. Yeah.
Just
anyway,
tastes better.
Yeah. So I mean, and there's your whiskey sour, right? Now, I did bring some cinnamon. Cheers. I did bring some cinnamon because sometimes you might not have. So this is aromatic bitters. If you think about the traditional Angostura bitters, it's that one. It's got the yellow cap with that oversized label on it. A lot of people have that at home. But if you don't, cinnamon works great, or even nutmeg, just on top of that egg white cocktail. So for lack of so I'll let you be the official.
Ooh.
Like,
all right.
does this
little
taste
drum
good?
roll here? And
drum roll.
All right. Salute.
Salute.
Slancha.
Chin chin.
Oh boy, that's good. Wow. That is so good. I mean, for people that like bourbon, I'm a whiskey guy, so I like bourbon. I like Irish whiskeys. I like scotches. But bourbons are great because they have that more rounded, sweetness to it, to the whiskey. But with that lemon in there in the syrup, I mean, it's so smooth. I mean, this is really a dangerous drink.
Uh-oh.
I
love
swing
danger.
this over to Gene to taste.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Urban. It tastes like a hot summer day.
And it's
That was
really
in a
good.
show.
I mean, Normally, what most people will have, you think of that whiskey sour from the bar, and it's that crappy, sour mix that they're throwing on top of,
Wow.
rail whiskey or something.
This is not my normal drink, but it's pretty damn tasty.
But this is fantastic. It really has a great flavor. I can taste the hint of that syrup in there. I can taste faintly that the bitter, that aromatic bitter. I wouldn't even think there's egg white in here.
No.
To be honest with you, it just really levels things out, and the bourbon is so smooth now. Fantastic.
Cheers, man.
Folks,
Cheers.
Try this. This is really good.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm probably going to have to hit you up for one more during the podcast. But
happily.
All right. So we're going to switch spots, and we're going to talk to John here a little bit more about being a bartender, barman, business owner, and other stuff. So how are things going in Sacramento there, Patrick?
Well, they're doing all right. It's been hot, but now it's not so hot. It finally cooled down. It's only going to be 78 degrees today and sunny. So, but it's Sacramento's awesome because it's one of the most sunniest places on earth. Actually, there's zero rainfall pretty much from May through October. It's going to be sunny every day. You just need to know if it's going to be 90, 100, or 110. So that's kind of the deal with it. But today it's nice and cool. It's 78 degrees. We had a little wind yesterday, so they have to shut down the power if it's windy and dry. It's making everything prone to fires. So it's not quite pool weather. I mean, I suppose we could, but we're not gonna today. But yeah, I got my kiddos, and they go back to mom's later tonight. So, but yeah, things are all good in Sacramento. No fires, no riots, no whatever else is going on in the world.
Well, that's kind of a first with everything that's going on.
But I did want to ask John one thing. I'm not a huge cocktail guy, but I do like vodka cranberry, and I'm such a basic bitch. I'll just get a glass, put ice in it, fill it up about halfway with vodka, the other half cranberry, and then I drink it. And it's fine that way, I'm sure. But is there something I could do that's going to make that like a million times better? Like one time I think I had some 7-Up laying in my fridge, and I just put a splash on top, or is there something I could do to spruce up a vodka cran when I want to have one of those poolside or something this summer?
Absolutely, have a second one, and then the third one tastes even better. And by the fourth one, you're going to be a genius. So basically speaking, when you think about vodka, vodka is going to be like distilled to be colorless and flavorless. So when we're combining it with something, it's really taking on the other flavor that we're combining it with. So when we think about cranberry and we think about pHs, right? Bitterness, like lemon juice is going to be very bitter, but cranberry juice is not going to be very bitter. It's going to be sweeter. So something bitter in that is just going to give you another layer of flavor. I always like I would add take half a lime and squeeze it into your vodka cranberry, and that's just going to give it another that's going to balance out the sweetness of the cranberry juice. When we think about cocktails, I always like to say think about a glass of lemonade, right? So if you drank a glass of soda water, that's boring. If you drink a glass of soda water with sugar, that's too sweet. If you drink a glass of soda water with lemon juice, that's too bitter. If you drink a glass of soda water with lemon juice, sugar, or soda water with lemon juice and sugar, you got lemonade, and that's wonderful, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of what we bartenders think about, is when we think about something sweet, where's something bitter that I can balance that sweetness with?
Patrick's going to plant a lime tree now in his yard.
Yeah, they grow out here.
I know.
And then, is this a cocktail that I probably should be shaking too?
No, just pour that over.
So you want to stir a vodka cran?
You don't. So I like to say there's shaking, stirring, and 80s drinks, right? So in the 80s and the 90s, right, when we were making like rum and cokes and vodka crans and vodka OJs and stuff like that, Bloody Marys, right?
I invented the bimbo shot.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah,
Boy. It's a shot of Bacardi rum, and then with those soda guns. You take the soda gun and you just do a splash right on top. That's it.
Splash of what though?
Coca-Cola.
Like Coke.
Oh, okay.
So in a shot glass, like the 2-ounce shot glass is 1.5 ounces of the Bacardi, and then like a 1/4 ounce of, and then
just
you
to
would
give
have
it a
a
little
side
color,
of Coke.
you know?
That's the shot. Oh, and then you.
It just gave it a little nice color.
Love it. I love it.
But
other-
you're saying, yeah.
So the only other thing I'll tell you is try going less cranberry and add like a flavored carbonated water too. So maybe like a lemon carbonated water, lime carbonated water, or something like that. So you got the vodka, the cranberry, and then a little bit of carbonation going on.
Yeah, the black cherry stuff.
There you
Pretty
go.
Good too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So
No, that's cool.
or
and
change
then I was
from
gonna ask
vodka.
this too. So when you go, you can get like a $17 bottle. I think it's called 7 times platinum. It's kind of a generic vodka. It's 7 times filtered. There's some vodkas that are filtered 4 times, and that's usually like $4. But then you've got your Kettle Ones of the world, and that's kind
But
of
your
like my
liver is the
favorite
one
vodka.
that filters it in the first place. So who cares?
Right. But is there a huge difference between a 7 times platinum generic vodka and a Kettle One?
Absolutely. The marketing budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Besides the fancy bottle.
So when we think about vodka has to be distilled to at least 190 proof, right? So you're basically, the reason you have to send that stuff through the still so many times is because you have to get it up to 190 proof before you add the water, and then you can technically add glycerin, sugar, and citric acid to it too. But the point being is that, when you distill it one time, you get those ethanol molecules going up, but then you also have water molecules and other what we call congeners that are attached to the molecules. So the first time you distill it, you're not hitting 190. So you got to run that juice back through the still again and back through the still again until you get such pure ethanol that it's going to be 190 proof. Right?
Now, for the people that are watching, 190 proof.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yikes.
That's kind of like lighter fluid, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes,
So,
it is flammable.
5% alcohol, right?
Yeah. I mean, woo. And you're not going to ingest that at that high level. I mean, that would hurt you. So what's the process of putting the water back in? I mean, how do you...
So basically what you're going to do is you're going to end up with that 190 proof ethanol, right? And then you're going to add water to it until you get that proof down to 80. Right, because almost all vodka is.
So you have a big
80
laboratory at home.
No.
I can just see John here in a white schmuck with glasses.
He's got all these beakers,
little
and
beakers, and lighting things on fire. A little Bunsen burner.
I have all those. Anyways, but vodka, generally speaking, as we can see, it's very cost ineffective to produce. So generally speaking, when you're thinking about all the different brands of vodka you're buying in America, you're thinking about getting that from probably like 4 to 5 different huge distillers that are just distilling a whole ton of stuff, selling it out. And then like the biggest one that kind of everyone knows is a place called MGP, Midwest Grain Products. And they just distill a whole bunch of stuff. And then people buy that and then they put it in their bottles and then they resell it under their label. Tito's, right?
Yeah.
A lot of whiskeys and bourbons are done that. They'll distill what is technically has to be bourbon, but then some people will buy that juice and they'll age it in their own barrels or something like that.
Right.
And so that's.
So does the quality effectively come from what kind of water you use and what are those other things that you sprinkle in at the end of it to make it a Kettle One? Or another one that I like is Deep Eddy, and there's also Tahoe Blue out here too. So does it come down to that?
A little bit of the water that you add to it, but then there's this thing called heads and tails when you distill something. So if you think about when you're bringing something up to, so at sea level, alcohol evaporates at 170 degrees, right? Minnesota, we're at like 2,000 feet, so they usually run their stills around like 180 degrees-ish because of whatever, all that nerd stuff. Point being is that, water's boiling at 212 or whatever. And so we're heating that stuff up. But as we heat it up, other chemicals start coming off that mash at first, right? And some of those chemicals that are coming off right away, that's the stuff that kills you. So we call that the heads. So we run that through, and we'll either siphon that off or we'll sell it to a gas company or something like that.
Wow.
And then we get into the hearts.
Yeah, fuck you, electric cars.
And then we get into the hearts. That's the stuff that you can drink. And then when of course you're cooling things down, there's going to be some residual residual gases that are coming. That's called the tails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the farther you go in, farther. I only have a journalism degree. All right. The further you go in to those hearts, kind of the better the quality is. And then the further you go into those heads and tails, the more money you can make, right? Because you can't make any money off heads and tails. So some of those companies will bottle as many heads and tails go as far into those heads and tails as they can. And that's the stuff that's giving you hangovers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're not going to mention those companies, right?
Right. Those companies will never tell you.
Oh.
Right.
They come in a
what they
plastic
do.
bottle.
You're going to put a fancy label on it.
On a plastic bottle. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the nerds, the nerd distillers and stuff like that, they'll be able to like smell spirits and be like, oh, I can smell blah, blah, blah in this. So they are making some cheap product. And then of course, the other thing that has to do with quality is just how much you drink and are you used to it, right?
Right.
And so if you were drinking, I don't know, Patrick, will you tell me I don't want to like name some brand. What brand do you like again for vodka?
Kettle One or Deep Eddy.
Yeah. So let's say you've been drinking Kettle One for 20 years and then you switch to Absolute or something like that. Some of those things might, your body has already developed a whole bunch of different enzymes to efficiently break down Kettle One. So now I don't know the science behind Absolute and Kettle One and what exactly they're using in their mash bill. Point being is that some of that stuff might not be, you might not break down as efficiently, and then, you'll get drunk faster or you get gnarlier hangover or something like that. My wife's a toxicologist, so we can really nerd out over what ethanol does to your body, because all I do is ask her questions and she rolls her eyes at me every time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but no, babe, I want to know about this.
Well, I've also heard too, on that note, that's a great transition. Is there an alcohol that's more easily processed by your body? And I've heard vodka is like better than bourbon, or, like if it's brown, you're going to go down, or you know what I mean? Like the clear ones are better for you. I don't know. Is there any truth to that?
So yes and no. So the studies that have been done that I've seen, I haven't seen any more recent studies. So if there are any out there, I haven't seen them yet. And I try to keep up to date. Studies that are out there basically show that, the amount. So when your body consumes, ethanol, it turns it in. I'm going to blank on this thing, and my wife's shouting in my ear. It turns it in. Will you? Are you looking it up? So when it turns,
what do you want me to look up?
What is your body when your small intestine processes ethanol? What does it turn into? And it's called
poop.
Something, yeah.
Well, I think in this case it'll be pee. But that goes through your kidneys instead of your small intestines. But,
I'm just looking at bourbon whiskey, but.
Oh, okay.
It's corn. It's mace bade. Or,
so I think it's called aldehydes.
Okay.
So ethanol turns into like aldehydes. And aldehydes is what is toxic to your body. So the more ethanol we're consuming, the more aldehydes is going through your body.
Right.
And that's the stuff that's toxic. So depending on which spirit we drink, it's not necessarily one is worse than the other, except for the fact of when we get back to those heads and tails.
Yeah. So, so what you're saying is some of the, depending on the way that they're bottling it and putting it out, that some are going to have more, some are going to be more carcinogenic.
Yeah.
Than
so
others.
white wine has more aldehydes, or red wine?
Red wine.
Yeah.
Because of the carcinogens that are in it. But that's, yeah. But isn't red wine, Isn't that supposed to be good for you to have like a glass a day because it opens up the blood?
Not at all.
Not at
but
all.
Yeah,
So
those
that's
studies have all been rebuked.
They're trying.
Yeah.
Grape juice is just as good for you as.
Well,
Isn't it better to?
I had
Isn't it better
my
to
grape
just do
juice this
cocaine
morning.
off of a foily as opposed to snorting it? Like that's. I heard it's better to breathe it in instead.
Instead of a pipe, you use a straw. I don't know.
Trying to be, we're trying to be safe
But
and healthy.
To end cap your question, I don't remember if it was Patrick or Brett, but what's worse for you? Brandy is what the studies show, and so then I asked my wife to ask the author, what brandy did you use? Because there's American brandy, there's cognac, there's Armagnac, there's Pisco. Those are all different styles of brandies that are used with different grapes.
Formaldehyde is actually a simple aldehyde.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
It actually is. It's a
now
preservative.
please don't say that cognac is bad for you because you're going to be you are going to be killing my happiness here.
Yeah. Well, cognac's wonderful, but they are allowed to add sugar and caramel color. It's actually called Boise. It's like basically when you soak wood in water, it makes like this brown stuff. Right. They're allowed to add that, but like bourbon, you're not allowed to add any artificial colors, flavors, or additives.
So that's coming right from the barrel.
Bourbon?
Barrel aged.
No.
Well, when it's aged, I mean, bourbon comes out, it's clear, correct?
Yeah. No. Well, when it comes off the still yes.
Yeah.
But then when it gets put in a barrel.
Then it's
like he said earlier, it's a barrel-aged American whiskey.
Yeah. Bourbon has to be aged in new charred oak barrels. You can't have the label of bourbon if it's not aged in a new charred oak barrel. But yeah, the color is from the barrel. But another rule in bourbon is you can't put it in the barrel at higher than 125 proof. So when you get those bottles that say barrel proof or cask strength with the bourbon, then no water has been added to it. And that you'll usually see it says like 127.2 or 100.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So kind of like.
So everybody's going to move to Kentucky right now.
Booker's. Booker's is like usually what, 125 to 127?
Yeah, it depends on the year and stuff like that. Yeah.
And you got Knob Creek and Baker's, I think. And those are all off the Jim Beam line.
Yeah. So Baker's is a little bit. Baker's, I think they bottle at about 107, if I'm not mistaken. But you can check me on that one, Gene.
What kind?
Baker's bourbon.
Baker's. So what's the
bottle? But the point is that some bourbon is going to put in the barrel at 125. If maybe some people don't, I don't know. But if you think about like ethanol molecules, they bind to colors and flavors more effectively than water molecules. So you want to put your juice in that barrel at the highest level you can because you want to get all of those different fun flavors that you're getting out of those barrels. I also could be mistaken on that if not everyone's putting it in at 125. But generally speaking, when we see the cask strength, it's above 125. But then, basically what's happening is your master distiller is tasting barrels and then adding whatever water he wants to add to it, or she, I should say, and that's where they think it tastes the best.
So Baker's is a small batch is like $60.
Yeah.
It depends on if you want 7 year plus, then the price goes up.
Okay.
So, but does it say what the proof is on that by chance?
For Baker's?
Yeah, for Baker's.
I don't know. They're asking me not to be a fucking robot right now. I'm like, press here, please. And I'm like doing it like 10 times.
So, but the difference though, I mean, like Jack Daniel's is not a bourbon, right?
Yeah.
It's a sour mash whiskey.
Yeah. Well, so
Tennessee sour mash.
We're going,
difference?
we're going super nerd now. So every whiskey is a sour mash whiskey.
Okay.
Basically, if you think about your mash, you have a yeast strain and you've got your starch. So if we think about it, like if we go back to an overview, you make wine, distill wine, you get brandy. Make beer, distill beer, you get bourbon or whiskey, right?
Right.
So when we think about the mash, that's basically how they're making that beer. And so we're taking grains, cereal grains, corn, wheat.
Okay. It says Baker's is 53.5% alcohol, which is 107 proof.
Yeah, so you're 100% right.
Yeah.
All right. At any rate, let's see. So you're making a fermented liquid, right? And then you're distilling that fermented liquid. When you get done distilling that, you have your mash, and your yeast is already active and going. Now, if you want to start a brand new yeast strain, then it won't be consistent from line to line. So you want to take half of your mash, put it in.
That's
the
what
new
they
thing.
do with bread. They reserve the yeast.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Whatever that is.
Yep. Exactly. And so
Has nothing to do with hygiene.
But this is basically every whiskey is a sour mash. Jack Daniel's is just is using that.
Just a name that they use. It's sour mash instead of say rye or bourbon. So, or I'm now with bourbon. I mean, when you go to the liquor store and you're looking at the shelf and you see blended whiskey. Yeah. And you see bourbon or rye or sour mash. What's the difference between blended and bourbon? Are bourbons blended as well? Or, I mean, for the people out there, I mean, I kind of know, being a bartender for like 20 years, how it's done. But for the people out there, how are the specifics done when you go to the liquor store and you're going to buy something?
Yeah. So yes, bourbons can be blended. First of all, all the juice that you blend together has to follow the bourbon regulations. Right?
Gotcha.
So you can age some juice for 3 years, some juice for 10 years, some juice for 15 years, blend those all together and call it Brett's bourbon, right?
So
and as long as all those different things had the 51% corn product.
You can bless it. You just put your finger. you just put your finger in it and then do like the cross thing.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's kind of like this here, the 150-year Grand Marnier. Okay. Of course, it's empty. Sorry, folks, drank that years ago. But this one's a blended one too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong. It's like 25, 50, and 100, and a little smidge of 150, so they can call it that. It's like a teeny tiny amount, but then they can call it that, or
I don't know. I actually don't know the rules of liqueurs,
right?
But I know like if it's like a Scottish whiskey or Irish whiskey or bourbon whiskey, when they put an age statement, that's the age of the youngest juice in the bottle.
Ah, wow.
So if you say Knob Creek is 9 years, right? All the juice in that has to be aged at least 9 years.
Is there a percentage that they have to put in the bottle to put that name on it?
Well,
or they just put a couple drops in and they go, "Hey, you're gonna pay $50 more now."
Well, actually, that would be more expensive,
right? Because like one of these, like the Grand Marnier 150, we know that it's not mostly 150-year-old because it would be so obnoxious.
So they just put a little amount in.
So I'm sure. So it's different where. So what you're saying is the minimum when it comes to like a bourbon, the minimum, if it says it's a 12-year, the minimum is 12, but it could be other years 15 or 20 or something like that.
Yeah. So if the bottle says 12-year, there's no 5-year, there's no 6-year in it. It's 12, 14, 18 juice altogether in that bottle. But there's also, and I don't want to open up another can of worms, but there's
Why
also
not?
There's also like a good argument that goes on is like, when do you actually see improvement? Right. And then when does improvement stop? And a lot of people say about 12 years with bourbons.
Okay.
You're not getting any better. Rums, depending on the climate,
What about
like
18
6, 7 years? So yeah, so some people, let me always give you. I use umbrella all the time. Let me put in an umbrella statement. Whatever you like to drink is the best thing that you can drink. If you think
Pink Squirrel.
If you think pink squirrels with 18-year-old scotch are great, then go for it, right? There's no scotch in pink squirrels, but if you want to add to it,
Thank
go
God.
for it, right? But point being is that so like me, for sure, I've got some different brands that I'm like, these are great, and I won't try other stuff because I'm just paying for their marketing budget. Right. I'm not paying for quality. And when you get past 12 years in bourbon, it's very hard for me to find some juice that's that much better when we're thinking about $200 to $300 and below, right?
Right.
When we're going above that, then some of the stuff is good, but it's also like what you would order when someone else is paying.
Right.
No,
Yeah, it's what you get at a Diddy party.
But now,
man, if bourbon is the only thing you get there, I think you won.
Well, there's lots of lotion and oil as well. But
you're like, why is I can't drink this now.
Speaking of which,
there's
John,
lotion
you'd be
in my
very,
drink.
very popular if you ever went to prison because you could definitely show people how to make the hooch.
Yeah, can I have an extra plate of rice, please?
You could do your own podcast
Get you some
from
rice,
prison.
some oranges, plastic bag.
I'd like a
You
bowl
don't
of
change your
ferment.
socks for 4 days. You give me some rice.
Can I get a bowl of wheat? Some
Bruno
oats,
up in
maybe?
there.
Now, I got a question, though. I mean, when you're
Corn.
looking at different aspects of say, whiskeys, that's like a single malt Scotch or single malt Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
Or you're looking at a single barrel bourbon. Now, those aren't mixed, correct? Those are bottled right out of the barrel.
There's something wrong with this picture. Johnny doesn't have a drink.
Oh yeah, I've got this
okay.
is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, those typically they're correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't those typically right out of the barrel? So if they call it a single barrel, it's out of the barrel, or how do they?
So single barrel is out of the barrel, but like single grain or what was the other example you gave me? I'm sorry.
Like a single malt
malt.
Scotch.
Yeah, those are all going to be blended, but they'll be from either one facility or from one farm, kind of depending on what the label is.
Okay.
But almost always they're blending stuff, because if you think about when you're aging your juice, right? Not everything is in the same place, right? So you have
Aging your juice.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Where's Patrick? Where's
Where's the bump?
Come on, Patrick.
But the point is yeah. Thank you.
And there we have it.
Yeah. Some of the barrels are gonna impart a little bit, a few different flavors.
Right.
And some of them, the rack house might be, like 4 levels high or something like that.
Right.
And so the stuff on the 4th level is going to, age at a different time and a different temperature and all that stuff. If you think about, good heavens, that's got the whole horse race. Why can't I think of it? Blanton's. Blanton's is aged in stainless steel.
Wow.
Rack houses instead of like wooden ones, right? And so there's more heat and more coldness going in, and so that barrel is interacting with the juice a little bit more.
Which is funny because Blanton's was the bourbon that I wanted to pick up to have you make the drink, but they didn't have any, so I went with Woodford because that's the other one that I do like.
Okay,
but, like
great.
Blanton's is one of my favorites.
Love it.
Just really weird. I had no idea that they do it in. They don't do it in barrels. They do it in,
No, stainless steel barrels.
Yeah.
No, they do it in normal charred oak barrels, but the house that it's stored in, the rack house, is not made of wood.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was like kind of
okay,
confused
so
there.
it's like steel. I got
Yeah.
you. Oh,
Sorry.
That's crazy. Is that because they can handle more weight, so more barrels, or is it
it's temperature.
It's temperature.
Yep,
Gotcha.
yep. Gets hotter, gets colder than the wood, because that wood expands and contracts, and so that juice is going in and out of the staves.
Okay.
So.
And John, can I ask about your resume a little bit?
Absolutely.
What bars did you work at? And did you ever come across any rock stars, Vikings players, anything good like that over the years?
Patrick.
Besides me, I know you got me hammered a few times.
DJ came.
Viking.
Yeah. I've worked at a few different restaurants. I started at in North Oaks, Minnesota. There's a little restaurant called Panino's, and I started washing dishes in my teenage years there. And then I kind of worked up to bartending there.
So you started making a cocktail with using dishwater.
Yeah.
Look at the frothiness of it.
Was the hospitality business always something that you wanted to do since that first gig?
I I mean, I always enjoyed it. And then as I got into bartending and I bartended my way through college, I just kind of kept doing it. And I got degrees in political science and journalism, and I was going to be a writer. And
Damn.
And then I was like, whoa. I
So
could
how many
work
hats
one
do you
night.
have?
Yeah, too many hats. Too many
Wow.
hats. But I was, kids, you don't have to be a career bartender like me. It's okay to make less money in journalism for a little bit.
Well, which is
worked out for you and you enjoy it. So
but it
it's
worked
kinda like,
out for me,
drink
yeah.
what you want
But-
to drink, do
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but
Yeah.
that's the case. I mean, I bartended alongside John here for a few years, and I
Yeah.
was in the same industry for a long time. And when I switched careers and became a police officer, it took me literally 5 years to make the same kind of money I was, making as a bartender.
Yeah.
Now, granted, when you take
And now no tax on tips where you had to pay taxes.
right, well,
Yeah, we claimed all of our tips.
yeah, we sure did.
Sure you did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it took, now granted, healthcare wasn't kind of in the picture
Yeah.
at the time, and now it's a little bit more expensive. But if you take that into consideration, it did take me probably 4 or 5 years to make the same amount of money that I was making that I could make as a bartender. But the only thing is, it's like I couldn't take days off. I mean, when you were sick, you weathered through it because you're missing out on, a few $100 by not showing up at work because no one's paying you to stay at home.
Yep.
But it could be pretty lucrative. When I worked downtown and working at the Refuge with you and O'Donovan's Irish Pub, I mean, it was pretty good money because you had people that were coming to see you. Now, I know for me, my whole social life revolved around bartending. So when people wanted to come and see me, because I worked every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically, they'd have to come into the bar in order to see me. So my social life was wrapped around that.
Same.
So now with you doing consulting kind of stuff, how does that work for you now where you're not, at a certain bar all the time, or are you at a certain bar on specific days? How does that work with consulting?
Yeah, I mean, just with that is very similar. Like my story is very similar to small business owners in the sense that sometimes it's busy and you're working all the time and there aren't enough hours in the day, and sometimes you're like, I'll pay someone to like book me. Like it's slow, and so there's these ups and these downs, these ebbs and these flows. So I'm actually still getting used to that, and I've been doing this. Let's see, 6 years I think it's been my only job, and I still let's see, April and May I was pretty slow. And my wife's like, "Don't worry, it's gonna pick
So
up
who
again."
brings home the bacon?
Yeah, right. So I should say my wife she brings home the consistent good bacon. The Hackenmuller's
Right.
bacon is my wife, right?
The Applewood smoke.
Yeah.
Not the new skis.
The Hackenmuller's, but see, I'll go way like in the holiday season, I'll just skyrocket
Right.
up, and
So it's like tax season for some people. It's like they make all their money during.
Yeah.
Well, and
months.
I remember being a bartender. It's like you worked hard and you put the money away because you knew you were going to have
Yep.
slow months, and you knew you were going to be knocking it out of the park other months. And you're right, it was just like this, and you had to learn financially to maybe stabilize that.
Yep.
Save a little more, maybe not go out as many times a week on date nights, stuff like that. But
So with July 4th coming up, do you have any things that you're doing for July 4th?
I mean, I have a booking on July 4th and
Okay.
July 5th, so
Nice.
I don't even remember what they are. But it's some cocktail class or hey, whoever
So-
I'm giving your it's going to be awesome person
Right.
on July
Yeah.
4th.
So did you ever I want to circle back. Did you
Yeah.
ever meet or serve someone ultra famous, or like Elton John stays in
You-
town for 4
you,
days,
Patrick.
or Billy
Yeah.
Joel?
yeah.
Just me?
It was
Really?
you.
That's it?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm like a D-lister at best. Come on.
So do you remember anybody specific or?
Oh man, as far as famous people go, what's that? Who's that comedian who's on Nick something or other Schwartzman or whatever?
Nick Schwartzman.
Schwartzman. Yeah. I worked at this bar that he came to every now and then. I think I exploded a shaker tin on him. that was not embarrassing at all.
Swarto's a friend of 93X. And,
Okay.
He's also from St. Paul, and we're hoping to get him on the show.
Oh, sick.
Tell him you guys got to be here.
I'm sorry that night at Coup d'etat that I exploded a shaker tin.
No, you got to be here at the same time. That would be freaking awesome.
He'd be like, dude, I don't remember you. And I'm like, I did my job. Yeah, like let's see, Joe Mauer and who was the first baseman for the Twins used to come in. Yeah, Justin Morneau. They used to come in before. My story about Justin Morneau is he came in and he goes, "You got any Canadian beer here?" And I go, "Yeah, I got Labatt's." And he's like, "That's not Canadian," or he's like, "That's it." And I was like, "I don't know. Where do you think it's made?" And like someone taps me and they're like, "Sunshine, you're talking shit to Justin Morneau."
But they like that though.
But that's the same thing. We, me and one of my buddies, I bartended at O'Donovan's, and it was kind of a busy night. And one of the gals that worked at the other Irish bar, Kieran's, came in with a couple of guys that were in town. And I remember it was Peter Billingsley. Remember Peter Billingsley from
Family Guy?
No.
Oh no, wait.
That was from A Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And he was there with. I mean, they came in town. We think came in town. That's when Owen Wilson was going to treatment at Hazelton. So,
okay.
Or whatever it's called. So you had the.
So he was getting treated at Hazelton, and then.
Well, no.
Wait.
Owen Wilson, one of their friends.
Oh.
And the guy that was with them, who's that really tall actor? He was in The Breakup.
Wedding Crasher guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were in that movie. We were in that movie.
Yeah, we were. Can you look that up? So they're both in the bar, and we didn't know who Peter Billingsley is, and we're like introducing him, like, "So, what's your name?" He goes, "Peter Billingsley," and we're like, and one of the bartenders goes,
Vince Vaughn.
Thank you. He goes, "That's the you'll shoot your eye out kid." I'm like, "No way!" And I walked up and I go, "Are you the shoot your eye out kid?" And he goes, "Oh, God damn it." And it's like, he didn't want to, God, why does everybody 30 fucking years and I got to put up with this shit? And he knocks his drink over because he's like animated. So the other bartender goes and grabs a kid cup and puts his drink in a kid cup and puts the straw in it, puts it out in front of him. And then I reach up, nope. And I grab the straw and I go, "You'll poke your eye out."
Oh, you're
And he was like, and Vince Vaughn's like laughing his ass off. And he goes, "All right, guys, enough of the, come on."
But we met Goat Boy at TGI Fridays.
And then at TGI Fridays in Roseville, if anybody remembers the SNL skit Goat Boy, with Jim Brewer.
Yep.
Ooh.
And we got into shot wars, and he pulled out the American Express black card and said, "I will win."
He did.
And we went, "All right, you win."
Yeah.
So, but is there any out of all the people that you've met, who are kind of the coolest people?
Who are the coolest?
Me.
Yeah.
Us.
Other than Patrick, working in the bar industry.
I would say the other servers are servers and bartenders, and then the unmentionables are super awesome. That there's a little bit of a code behind the stick that there's some people that you just kind of never talk about, and those guys. I think you know some of those people that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they're always really good people.
I think Brett will agree with this. The movie Waiting is probably one of your guys' stories. Like, it is probably to a T what it's like working at like a Fridays in 2004.
That was like one. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That was probably about 80% of TGI Fridays, about 80%. That 20%,
Marla.
but
Shut up, Marla.
it was pretty close to that stuff. But it was, and it's really weird because within the industry, everybody. Within the industry. They come and go, and I remember I would get off work. I'm gonna go down the refuge for one drink, and I would sit down. I would sit down for one drink, and all of a sudden, shot, beer, shot. All of a sudden, there's 12 drinks in front of me, and I'm like, what? And everybody,
Industry night.
and everybody bought me a drink or shot, and it was, and instead of going, give me one when I'm ready, you load them up because then you can't go. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like,
you drank all of them?
No.
He's like, I gotta get a new career. Maybe I'll be a cop.
It's like one of those things. It's like, I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom. Well, what's this $20 doing here? It's to save my spot. I'll be right back. Instead of going to the bathroom, right out the door.
Yeah.
And everybody's watching me. Brett's not coming back.
I was with some college roommates, and they wanted to go to like one of the cool nightclubs. And I'm like, no, this is like the dumbest idea ever. And there's like a long line. So
is it a titty club?
No. It's like Envy or something like that. Do you remember that club?
Yeah, I do. I think it's right on First Ave. Yeah, it's down by First Ave and 4th Street.
Yeah. I bet you money was Envy. But at any rate, they're like, let's go, and I'm like, all right, I'm with you guys, fine. And there's like this line, and like they're like picking and choosing people, and I'm like, this is the stupidest idea. Like we have to like sit here like like whatever, like chipmunks waiting for peanuts to be thrown to us or something like that. You mean
they were like pick who could come?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I'm like wanting to go, and then all of a sudden one of the door guys goes, "Is that you, Sunshine?" And I'm like, "Oh, hey man, what's going on?" He's like, "Who are you with?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm with my roommates." And he brings us in. We walk in. The coat check girl goes, "Oh, one of your friends is working, but she's in bottle service, but I'll just put you at that table." And so we went from like not even wanting to go in to like getting on the stage, and then all the go-go dancers came up to us and said hi, and I was like, and then
you're in VIP.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all the rock stars and stuff are like, "Oh, this guy must be famous." Who's this guy?
I'm like, I work 2 doors down, man. But that's
you're saying I work 3 doors down, and they're like, "I knew it. He's a musician, a rock star."
I knew you looked familiar.
And it's funny because that stuff kind of happened. It didn't say kind of happened. It happened a lot with a lot of the different bartenders, and everybody in the industry. And I pretty much probably guess I would be willing to bet that was Jeff. Remember the bouncer that worked at the refuge? He worked at a bunch of those clubs too, and it's like I would see him everywhere, and it's like, is there a bar you don't work at?
Yeah.
You work in the door. So I mean, everyone would network.
Yep.
And I remember working at O'Donovan's. We'd close up at 2:00, and we'd get phone calls. Hey, we got a drink list. Can you put it out? Because we wouldn't have to kick everybody out until 2:30.
Yeah.
So we get a phone call, and we put all the drinks out, and then everybody from like 7 and some of the other they show up, and they paid my mortgage for years, and it's like the thing is like, wow, I'm just working so hard, I'm just not making any money. It's like, yeah, because you're paying my mortgage. You would come into the bar and you would throw $50 at me like 3 nights a week. You're paying me $150 a week.
Thank you very much.
That's
for that.
probably where it's coming from. But in the same token, it was kind of expected that you would go to other bars and
do the same
and patronize them. So
yeah.
Little bit different from where you're at, but now I was reading you have other bartenders that work within the consulting firm that you own.
So I just I just hire out as needed, so I don't have full-time staff. I just like being by myself. but during the holiday season when it gets really busy, there's also you start up a business, you read way too many books, but there's also a philosophy out there that is like, you don't have to grow. Like right. you can make more money by yourself and then find a happy place and have enough time with your family and enough time working where you can just live a great life and not not be crazy.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Yeah.
Well,
and once you take on staff, then you're like, okay, I need at least 4 bookings this week, 4 bookings next week, because Frank needs to eat, and now you're responsible for feeding Frank, and maybe I'll things will get so crazy that I'll be like, okay, now I for sure I've got a girl who does all my social media, but I'm sure she has multiple other jobs,
right?
Or my marketing, social media, whatever. And
I've never had a social media account ever.
That's good. Yeah,
but very good.
Don't do it.
But, and even speaking of a great life, I mean, some of the stuff that you've done, a pro tennis player, you did X Games as inline skater.
Yes, skater.
Come on, give us some.
So the actual
here.
pro, like one of the best in the world was inline skater.
Mm-hmm.
But tennis pro is just like a tennis pro. Like I'm certified to teach and gone through the training and stuff like that. Like your club level pro. Not like when I was X Games, I was like, on MTV and on whatever the channels, the ESPN.
But did you travel to Europe doing skating?
Yeah, and so you travel in Australia, Canada, and South America, and all that stuff. It was called the B3 when I was on it, because this is 96, 97, 98. So X Games I think started in like 95. So I'm on. So B3 stands for board, blades, and bikes. So we'd go, you'd have your Tony Hawks, your Lance Mountains, your Danny Ways, then your Jay Mirons, your Dave Miras on the bike, and then, we rollerbladers, your Arlo Eisenbergs, your Chris Edwards, so you kind of had all the top dogs cruising around. And this is before, Tony Hawk is a billionaire, you walk to a gas station with him in South Padre Island and buy a Mountain Dew and a Snickers bar. And it was, it was just Tony Hawk who was on the tour with you, not now Tony Hawk billionaire or whatever.
Wow.
Like some of those guys are just, they've got, I mean, I'm in a video game, but I'm that much money.
Well, you have something in common with Patrick. He's in a video game too.
Oh, let's go.
There you go. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm a voice. When you drive around in the cars, you can listen to radio stations.
Yeah.
So you flip through, and I'm one of the characters called Jonathan Freeloader on VCPR, which is Vice City Public Radio.
I love it.
Yeah, Jonathan Freeloader. And the whole gist of it was me and this cohort who was a female. Between the show pressing issues, we would come on and beg for money, like the PBS shows do.
Yeah.
So we'd be like, if you're listening to this station and you're not a member, you're a thief. You might as well come by and throw a brick through the window. So we would say really obnoxious shit like that and be pretentious. It's super fun.
I love it.
How long do you record for that? Like how do they approach you and you record? Like, do you have a script or do they?
So I was sent a script, and just like this, I could do this today.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I used 93X Studios, and he would call from New York, and he would say, "Okay, go," and I would just read the script, and he's like, "Try it again, but do this," So he gave me some direction, and I think I knocked it out in an afternoon once, So.
Oh wow! And then so you didn't do updates or anything like that? Like it was just like. Oh, wow.
Nope. And then the interesting thing about that is when I did it, it was like 2002 or 3, I think. And back then they just used whoever.
Okay.
I think I got $100 and a free video game. So, but
yes.
But the next year, the SAG and AFTRA people were realizing that the industry was taking off, and that if they were going to have an actor in a video game, it needed to be up to scale. So they said to video games, you need to hire Samuel L. Jackson and pay him $10,000 for a voice session. So, and that's what they did. So after that, I never got any more work in the industry. But
really, I'll do it for $9,000.
Yeah, right. but that's kind of like why those major video games have huge stars doing voices now. It's very similar to an animated movie.
Right.
Super.
So now,
because actors were getting undercut by guys like me. So sorry,
sorry, actors.
So I mean, with doing traveling and stuff like that, now I know you have a daughter. Is that
adult?
Yes,
daughter? She's 18.
Wow.
Oh no.
Off to college, man. My super daughter. Yeah, we were, Patrick and I were yapping a little bit before we went live, and he was talking about like kind of there's nature and nurture between like kids. Like some kids just are like, like my daughter, like I don't think she ever got lower than an A-, and then she's getting like a huge scholarship to Wheaton.
Wow.
To play tennis there. So she's an elite level tennis player. Plus she's got the huge academic. I tell you, if she was a bad student, I don't know what I would have done. Because like my joke is I got an A- in gym class once, like my sophomore year, and that was like my highest grade ever. So, yeah. So I was really blessed. Her name's Amelie. Really blessed with like just an awesome kid that I'm super proud of. That's like, I don't know. She has always been on the front end of trends, and I'm always like, you have got to like monetize things,
right?
Like start your own business. She's going to pre-law and going to be a lawyer and stuff like that. But man, does she have this like this mind that's just it's unreal.
So much different than when we were kids, because when we were kids, I mean, we didn't have technology, we didn't have internet.
We had rotary phones,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that video that's on YouTube that got like 1 million hits, where grandma gave a phone out to the grandkids and said dial it, and it was the rotary, and they're like pressing stuff, and they're not like, and literally one of them ended up Googling it and was like, are you kidding me? And then they figured that but we didn't have all that stuff, so it was, I mean, you couldn't really socially network in that way. I mean,
like when it was time for dinner, my dad would whistle.
Right. I mean, it's like, I remember in one of the podcasts, Patrick would say, if you were running late, you'd call the bar and get the bartender to, hey, tell Brett I'm on my way.
Yeah.
That's, no one had cell phones. What's a cell phone? You know?
You just, when you made plans, you showed up.
Yeah.
And if you didn't show up, something was seriously wrong.
Like,
you knew, like, all right, Brett got in a car accident, like we should check the hospitals, like
or they sit there.
The only thing
like,
that's the same is toilet paper.
But I mean, you're sitting there at the Iron Horse, which was the rock club, and it's like, oh, I bet you he went to the Mirage. So then they would go all to the Mirage, and I would go, oh, I bet you they're at the Iron Horse. And then I'd get to the Iron Horse. Oh, they're looking for you. They're all at the Mirage. And then it would keep going like that, So, I mean, it was a different time. So, I mean, kids now, I mean, when you're talking about, monetizing stuff, they have such an open venue for monetizing on different stuff that they do within social media. I mean, now, what do they call it? Influencers.
Oh boy!
Oh boy! That's the new term for getting paid to push a product because you've got 1 million subscribers to your channel.
Yeah.
One of these days, we'll get there. One of these days. But
need an influencer on this podcast.
I got to chime in with something real quick. I just
please
saw.
Do.
Check this out. I don't know if you can see this. It's an espresso martini tower at the Twins game.
Oh God!
You got to be kidding me!
Look at that.
Oh, that's because they have it on tap now. So
that's Remy Maxwell just posted that on his feed. So I thought it'd be fitting to share.
Love it.
But that's really cool. I mean, you stuck within the industry that has taken care of you for all these years, which is great. I kind of fled from the industry after a while because I was starting to get older, and it's like, it's a young man's game. It really is.
Or a person who's obsessed with working out and eating rights game.
And that's totally true.
Or you just like one of those old men bastards that works at Nyes. Those are my favorite bartenders. The ones that are like 80 and they're just sick of everyone's shit, and they're just fucking pissed when they're making your drink, and you're like, man, here's like an extra $5. I just love your fucking attitude.
But, so you've gone through, I mean, how did you you stuck with the business, but you were inline skating, tennis and stuff like that. Was bartending kind of the staple, and that's why you stayed within that kind of industry, or when you could have went other directions? What kind of narrowed things down to turning it into a business?
Yeah, I mean, trying to avoid politics at all costs. But if you think about politicians are generally lawyers, because if they don't win an election, they can just go back to their law firm, right?
Right.
And so for me, bartending is like if I started other things or wanted to do something else, I could pull back a little bit on bartending hours, and then I could, I was writing for a company for a little bit, and that work kind of dried up, and so then I could take up more bar shifts. But then I kind of had an epiphany at the there I popped my pee. Woohoo! Kind of had an epiphany at the refuge. I think one time I looked down and maybe there was like a Canadian Club bottle or something like that, and I'm like, I have no idea why that's called Canadian Club and how it's made or like anything about it. And so just kind of started reading and then started getting involved with like different groups, and I'm like, oh, there's other nerds out there. Awesome. And then just kind of got a little bit more into bartending, and then when I ended up working at Coup d'Etat, you had like Jesse Held and Relena Young who are kind of running the bar programs there. A lot of other great bartenders who I met through there too. But point being is that kind of introduced me to this whole different clique of like kind of that chef bartending type thing.
Right.
So I kind of got into that, and then and then I kind of helped and then I'm like, oh, there's all these things that can be done. But what I brought to the nerd bartending game is volume. So a lot of the nerd bartenders, didn't come from like nightclubs and stuff like that,
right,
where you have to like, you have to be working on like 4 people at one time. You're ringing one person, you're making another person's order, you're memorizing the third order, and you're making eye contact with the 4th person, and you just constantly cycle that. And if you can't, sink or swim there, right?
Right.
And so that's boom, 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 boom. $8,000 your till that night, right?
Right.
And the like Patrick was saying, 5 minutes later, by the time I was sober, I got my second drink, right? And so we know that that's a problem. People will pay. Like Patrick, you were probably happy to pay for the drink and you like the taste of it, but you're like, do I really have to wait this long? And so that's where I'm like, wait a minute, there are ways to make this faster.
Right.
And then once I kind of honed in those different techniques and ways, then I'm like, you go to restaurants and you're like, man, I could save this guy $30,000 in 1 hour. Like he is wasting so much time,
right.
Or she, I should say, whatever owner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I started out with like consulting is like, there's drinks that are cool. And then you figure out how can I make a cocktail faster? But
and that's genius though. I mean, when you look at it, because, you have this kind of stuff on TV. Patrick was talking about that stuff like bar rescue and that kind of deal where they come in and they rescue bar because people are driving it into the ground because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. But
it's genius that you're putting together a consulting firm where you can actually do this. You're at a bar and see, hey, this bar manager here. Hey, here's my card. I know how to. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And people got to realize the margins in that industry are just incredibly thin. Like you might make $110,000, but you need to bill $1 million a year. Like you get 1 to 3% profits, and you can walk into a bar and go, "Oh, I bet this guy's loaded and he's got it." But it's not that way. And if you found that niche where you can save somebody money, they're gonna definitely have you in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a website?
Well, it's just Sunshine. So yes,
Yeah.
sunshineconsultingmn.com. So it's like the name of the business and then MN like Minnesota. So Sunshine.
And we'll put that up at the end of the podcast for anybody who's interested. To talk to John about the next party or social function and you do team functions.
Yeah,
too,
I was going to say,
team
and that's
building stuff.
Yeah,
this is probably a great corporate team builder thing, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that. That sounds really interesting.
So if you think about it, like, you want to have cocktails sometimes with your team, but sometimes it's you don't want Frank to get hammered and have 15 martinis and tell Lucy the wrong thing. right? And then
Yeah.
and then B, you've got some non-drinkers, and then C, it's like, well, what do we do? Like, how do we get the conversation started, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of where the cocktail class comes in. Is I give everyone kind of a very like 30,000-foot view of like cocktails and how to make them, and I make it really easy for them to make it. But we give a little speech. I give a little talk about this is why you're making what you're making. You know,
Right.
I kind of did when I was making that whiskey sour. That's a couple of those lines that I was using.
Right.
I typically use in a cocktail class. Like, why do we put a sweet, a bitter, and and an abrasive in? You know, because it's a balance, like lemonade. So we'll do that, and so we bring everything to like your business, like your meeting room or someone's house or something like that, and we set up stations. And you can see pictures of all this on my website.
Right.
But so everyone has their own station, and then we make 3 different cocktails together. So every cocktail has a mocktail option, and they're all different styles of cocktails. So there's one, you know, like an old-fashioned style cocktail is kind of real spirit forward. But then if you think about like a mojito or a French 75, that's really refreshing, right? So there
Now,
are different
what's
styles.
in a
go
French 75? Because everybody knows what a mojito is. I mean, but
Yeah.
like a French 75, people don't understand. It's a great cocktail.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's old school, awesome cocktail.
Yeah. So the French 75, you put champagne in that, you put gin, you put lemon, and a little bit of sweetener in it. Yeah. So named after the 75 millimeter cannons or guns of the French army.
So did you grind the fresh mint yourself for the mojitos?
So thank you so much, Gene. for bringing this up. So when we think about a mojito is something that bartenders typically hate, right? Because you're taking that lime and that sugar and that mint and you're muddling it, and then you're pouring the rum on top of it, and then you're shaking it.
So
and
it's a
you're
pain in the
straining it.
ass.
Pain in the ass, but then let's think about what do you have to do after that. You've got to take that shaker tin, you got to dump it in the sink, right? Then all those mint leaves go in the sink and they turn black and they clog up your lines and stuff like that. And some of those mint specks are going to stick to your shaker and then they end up being in the next drink. There's just so many things that can go wrong. So what are you kind of doing when you muddle mint and sugar? You're making a mint syrup, right?
Yep.
Right.
So what if we just made a mint syrup before, right? And so then we can do mint syrup, rum, lime, shake that, put it into a glass, garnish it with mint. Now you have a mojito that bartenders can make just as easy as a Tom Collins, but it's not going to slow down service, right? So these
Right.
are the kind of things that I teach to restaurant owners or restaurant managers like, hey, I know it sucks to do this. How about I teach you how to take this step out of the process so both your guests are super happy that they get a mojito and your bartenders don't roll their eyes every time they see a ticket for a mojito, right?
And it takes less than 3 minutes.
Exactly, right? 30 seconds, mojito, boom, right? And so when we get into that, that kind of nerddom, that's kind of what we're doing in the cocktail world.
Right.
But then at a higher level, when we think about the team building stuff, I'm actually bringing stuff that has like the flavors, like a flavored sugar and citrus all in one bottle.
Right.
We call those elixirs.
Right.
So they'll just be adding like the booze, the elixir. They'll shake it up. They'll strain it. Maybe they'll put an egg white in it, and suddenly they have this strawberry basil lime sour, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, "This is the most amazing thing I ever had." It's pretty easy for them to execute. Now they can drink with their coworkers. They've actually made it so the perceived value is way better. Very common. 2 of the most common sentences I get at classes is, "This actually tastes real good." I'm like, "We're going to make old fashions." I hate old fashions. "This actually tastes real good."
Yeah.
Their liver was talking.
And then the second is, "This is the best cocktail I've ever made."
Right.
And so,
What about the different glasses? Because like they serve those in copper glasses, hammered copper cups.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you think thinking about like the Moscow Mule,
Moscow
stuff
Mule.
like that. Yeah, that harkens back to the time where the guy who was hired by Smirnoff was hired to sell copper mugs and
I have those for
ginger
you
beer.
next time.
So
You can make us some.
thank you. Like the glassware at my events are I use compostable glassware. So
Do you remember? I think it was during COVID where they banned Russian vodkas from our shelves for some reason.
Why?
But I
Amazing.
can't remember. This was just a couple years ago. There was a reason, at least
You're
in
right. I
California,
remember
we
that.
did
Yep.
it.
Okay.
They yanked all the, and surprisingly, Smirnoff was on the shelf. And I did research, and it's not even Russian. I think it's it's
Polish
made to
now
sound
or something.
Russian.
Yeah.
It's made. It
Or
was
maybe
probably
still
made in
Nikolaev
Minnesota
or something.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
there's
one of
something
those
about that. It was
Russian-sounding ones that
originally
had me fooled for
okay.
years, and I was like, "Why is this still on the shelf?" Oh, it's not Russian.
Yeah. And yeah, you might have to look this up because I'm not very good on this, but I'm pretty sure Smirnoff like started in Russia and then their factories moved to Poland or something like that. But don't quote me on that. I'm very illiterate when it comes to vodka and vodka history. So
Yeah, it's either Stoli or Smirnoff. One of those two was like still on the shelf, and I was surprised.
No, so, but yeah, the whole piggybacking on this, the whole booze and the politics behind it, and what goes into it, and the laws, and I mean, this is where these kind of team building events turn into like history classes.
And it is. There's a big history about alcohol and about mixing and making cocktails. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, back during Prohibition, the people had to make their own alcohol, and it was so god awful to drink that they had to actually, mix it with stuff. And then
Southside, baby.
Then we started mixing things and mixing cocktails and coming up with different flavors just to make it taste good. Because
it says the vodka distillery was founded in Moscow.
Here we go. Which one is this?
It's Smirnoff.
Okay.
But it's owned and produced by the British company Diageo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Diageo.
Diageo. And they own almost like everything.
Everything.
Which is sad because, I mean, I worked at an Irish pub for a number of years, and we prided ourselves on, the Irish, heritage and stuff like that. And Jameson, Powers, I believe there's
Schmittix, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, but those big name brands ended up getting bought out by Diageo.
Yeah.
And then Jameson no longer was Irish anymore, is Italian.
Diageo is a British multinational alcoholic beverage company.
But but from my understanding is they kept the infrastructure, and they pretty much what they bought was the transportation and the rights, the bottling and transportation rights. So you could make it with your people for the recipe, but we're going to pay you to do it now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they just kind of swept across the British Isles there, and they bought everybody out.
Yep, they had Johnny Walker, J&B, Buchanan's, Guinness, Smirnoff, Bailey's Liquor, Captain Morgan, Tanqueray, Gordon's Gin.
Yeah, so they get literally every. I think the only one, the Irish whiskey that they didn't get was Old Bushmills.
Yeah.
So that was probably, there might be another one in there, but for the most part, they didn't.
And Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, Anheuser-Busch. That's a joke if you haven't heard.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
Tell it.
So an Irish lass goes into her favorite Irish pub and sits down, and the bartender asks her, "So what do you be having? Would you be having your usual?" She goes, "No, I think I'll have myself a Budweiser." He goes, "Oh, Anheuser-Busch. It's fine, thanks. And how's your pecker?" My horrible Irish accent. I know I'm going to have my friends calling me up and going, "Are you trying to be Scottish or something?"
Yeah, I think I told this story on another podcast, but and Brett was in presence, but this might be, I don't know, maybe John knows this, maybe he doesn't, but I found it very interesting. So the owner of the St. Louis Cardinals, Adolph Busch or whatever his name was, asked Major League Baseball if he could name this next stadium Budweiser Stadium, and they said no, we're not letting you endorse alcohol on a ballpark. And then so he thought about it and went back to Major League Baseball, and his name is Bush, and he said, "Can I name it Busch Stadium after my family?" And they said, "Of course you can, go for it." So he got the deal signed, went back to his brewery and said, "Create a new beer called Busch Beer." And that's how Busch Beer came
Oh,
about.
wow. That's super awesome. No, I didn't know that.
He turned the script on MLB, and to this day, it still stands as Busch Stadium.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
there's Busch Beer out there.
Where's Busch Stadium?
St.
St.
Louis.
Louis.
St. Louis,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
where Budweiser is made. And that was another one. I mean, there's InBev, billion-dollar conglomerate, multi-billion. A bunch of companies got together and said, what little guys can we buy out so we can make lots of money and sink them? And they came in and I believe they took over Budweiser. And Budweiser was fighting it, but they ended up getting kind of scooped into the InBev deal. And that was a big thing where the Bush family was trying to buy their company back because they were taken over by hostile takeover from InBev. But
so if we've got another 2 hours and we've got an alcohol nerd on hand, let's break down the difference between rice beer, pilsner, stout, porters. We'd have at least 2 hours to go on that.
Oh my God. We could go on for
you need a beer nerd for that.
We could go on for hours and hours on one thing.
Yeah.
John, you don't delve into the beer thing too heavily.
I like to drink
probably
beer.
You probably know enough, but you're not into it as much as you are like the cocktailing side.
Yeah. So like the cocktails, the spirits, and kind of the history behind how things came about.
How many different specialty cocktails have you created?
Oh, good heavens! Too many to count.
Have you like invented a cocktail?
Yeah.
Lots. Yeah, but
geez,
so
And now is that part of your your recipe making? How you're do you have like books that have different recipes that you've come up with where like people that are want to take a class or they want you to come over and show their family or parties or whatever, they can take a look at that and learn from it?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So basically, I loosely title my class "How to Make Every Cocktail in the World," and so when we think about cocktails, generally speaking, we think about cocktails being in different families. And so when we think about there's one style of cocktail that's called Daisy, right? Mm-hmm. So a margarita, a cosmopolitan, a sidecar, a Mai Tai, an aviation would all be in that subcategory of Daisy, right? Daisy would be spirit, citrus, liqueur, right? So margarita, tequila, lime, orange curacao, right?
Yep.
Some people say spirit, sugar, citrus, liqueur because some people add sugar to it, but potato. So if we think about a cosmopolitan, citrus vodka, orange liqueur, lime juice, cranberry, right? Sidecar, brandy, orange liqueur, lemon juice, right? So all of these are following that Daisy, but then they're just different, using different spirits, different citruses, different liqueurs, right? So basically, once you understand that, you can say, okay, let's start out with a cosmopolitan, right? So a cosmopolitan has citrus vodka in it, okay? Instead of citrus vodka, let's do pear vodka, right? And so now we've got pear vodka. And then some people put simple syrup in it. Let's do ginger syrup because ginger and pears go really good together, right?
Right.
And then we've got orange liqueur. Let's not do orange liqueur. Let's do an almond liqueur, right? So we got pear, almond, ginger. I'd probably put lime with that. So stick with the lime, right?
Infused vodka too.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, or let's go back to Absolute Citron is essentially citrus infused vodka artificially. But let's say you just buy vodka and infuse it with strawberries, right? So now you got a strawberry vodka. You could do lime. You could do a basil syrup. So we're always sticking in this family, but we're creating a new cocktail, but we're just kind of taking things out and putting other things back in. So understanding balance the whole way.
Right. So you're taking kind of a recipe that's true and tried, and you're kind of pulling it apart and putting different things in there to build a
He's
different
tweaking it.
Tweaking a cocktail.
Yep.
It's almost like cooking, You have a basic way to do pot roast, but there's other ways to do pot roast, and you start deconstructing and reconstructing it a different way for a different flavor. Yeah. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. I like to compare it to in French cooking, you have your mother sauces, your bechamel, your velouté, your hollandaise, your espagnole, and your tomato. And once you learn those, you venture off. Yeah. Once you do that bechamel, then you do, macaroni and cheese and chili cheese dip and lasagna and stuff like that. And they all have that bechamel as a base, though. You know what I mean? You got to learn that bechamel first.
Flour,
and when
butter.
you think about, exactly. Yep. Fat, flour, liquid, right? Yep. But with cocktails, we have that same thing. and then you just kind of
branch out.
Branch out.
Now, when you're talking about infused vodkas, you get the ones at the store, and you just mentioned, that they're kind of fake infused.
Yeah. It's fake.
And I've seen in bars,
wow.
Where they've got these big jugs out, and it's vodka, and you got fruit in there and stuff like that. How is it infused without it like going bad? Or
it does go bad and it gets worse. It's just super funny to like go into bars and be like, you guys,
you can never trust it. But.
Gross. How do you know when it goes bad?
So
you get diarrhea or something?
Yeah. Well, no, you taste it and you're like, this does not taste good.
Tastes like ass. It tastes like ass.
So different. How do you infuse vodka, and what are the parameters?
Yeah. So different things are going to infuse at different times, and so that's why, like, when you're doing your infusions, you want to keep tasting it every day, take notes, and then you figure out, like, okay, strawberry, I need 24 hours, but jalapenos, I need 3 days, and coffee beans, I need a month. Or, that was off the top of my head, and don't quote me on that. But jalapenos are great, but you just take the seeds out because that has all the capsaicin, and then you can still get the flavor with that. But generally speaking, when we think about infusing, I think about like 250 grams to a liter, so kind of a 1-to-4 ratio of what you're infusing to your liquid. And then taste.
So you might want to go buy a scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, you absolutely should always have a scale. But
okay.
No, this is for food, people.
Food, not.
Yeah.
Hello.
And if you have a triple bean laying around at home somewhere, you better sanitize the crap out of that thing. So.
Or it'll just be an awesome infusion.
I tried this infusion and I couldn't sleep for 3 days.
I know, and then you can't.
I got so much done.
And then you can't remember what you did.
But you were saying, so you have the different times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In order now, once you bottle it, are you good, or do you have to drink it at a certain amount of time?
So what I like to say is, so you take those strawberries. Let's stick with the strawberries in 24 hours, right? So you take those strawberries, 24 hours. Okay, it tastes good. Now you want to strain it out, right? Because now that fruit is gonna start getting like vinegary notes and stuff like that. So you want that off, and then you've got your nice strawberry infused.
So sliced strawberries or whole strawberries?
I tend to think that whole frozen fruit is best. Whole frozen organic fruit is best for infusions because they kind of freeze it right when they pick it. So you're kind of getting that maximum flavor profile. Another umbrella statement. What's the best way to make a painting? To paint a painting, right?
What?
The best way to paint a painting. There are millions of ideas by really smart people, and no one has the.
Well, you can look at that one right there. That one.
Gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
My point is that when I make some of these statements, I like to give the caveat that there are a lot of smart people who have different opinions than I do, and I just always like to give that asterisk because one of the most annoying things is when I watch like a video or a podcast and someone's like, the only way to infuse strawberries is to slice them and get them from Mexico and do it for 24 hours and add 1 gram of citric acid. Otherwise, it'll taste like crap and your bar program will explode, And so at any rate, so that's what I think infuses nice. But then once you get that off, then you want to taste that again. And a lot of times you want to round out those flavors. So you want to add like a little bit of simple syrup.
Yeah, but you can't take a whole lime and throw it in there. You have to slice that up. You have to slice that.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't infuse limes because that'll probably taste disgusting.
What about
lime peels?
Can you just throw Skittles in there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, they're taking the coloring out of that candy now. Did you know that?
Well, so it's not so bad for you.
Oh, all right.
So when you taste the rainbow, you're not going to get a rainbow of cancer.
You're going to taste an asshole now.
My wife is from Switzerland, and like you go there and like some common stuff you see in America, you're like, where's your like Skittles or something? You're like, what are those? It's
that stuff that's gonna that candy that's gonna kill you.
Yeah, right. Like,
the carcinogenic candy.
Right. Sorry, we don't sell carcinogens. But yes, you can infuse like Skittles or Smarties or something like that into your vodka for sure. For sure. All of those different things. This is where like we nerd bartenders come about, as we think about those things that Patrick's talking about. Is like, what if I infuse Skittles into a vodka and then I make a vodka gimlet and garnish it with like we'll crush up some Skittles and put that on the rim, and then we get like, now you're gonna go into a bar and someone's gonna see a Skittles.
So can you make a drink that tastes like a certain like dessert and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Like what's like a tiramisu?
Tiramisu, creme brulee, like all that stuff. You just you just kind of figure out. You got to mess with stuff and figure out how to get those flavors. And
my daughter and I were just watching Hell's Kitchen, and one of the competitions, someone decided to put like a little chocolate in some dish, and Gordon Ramsay was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and she got nervous, and he ate it, and he's like, 5 out of 5, that worked. So it's definitely, I could see the relation now when you put it in perspective of, it's like cooking, try something new, see what happens. If it don't work, it don't work.
Exactly.
So you don't want a pizza martini, I don't think.
Well, you could have a pizza Bloody Mary, I guess, but
you can.
I mean, you'd have to kind of pair the stuff to what it's going to work, because you definitely know that some stuff is not going to work with other stuff. But
I did an event with one of the founders of Tattersall. His name's Dan Oski, amazing bartender, and he had some. Okay, I should edit this out because I forgot what he used. But he basically, it was like he used like yeast and all this like different stuff to like mimic a pizza. And it was an amazing cocktail. It didn't taste like a pizza, but it was like kind of an Italian tomatoey, like
spicy.
Yeah, I don't know. That guy's speaking of cocktail genius, that guy's a cocktail freaking genius.
Wow, that's cool.
Well, not like the movie with Tom Cruise.
No.
Oh God.
So, but with your website, what is your website again?
Oh, it's sunshineconsultingmn.com. So MN like Minnesota.
And do you have a phone number?
You can just call me, man. 612-812-2816. Text me, WhatsApp.
Say that again.
Sure. It's 612-812-2816.
So for everyone, just at the end of the podcast here, we're going to be putting up John's information for his website and what he does and stuff. So do you want to tune in and take a look at some of that stuff, and go to his website and look at some of the things that he does for like team building, for cocktail parties and events and that stuff. Give him a call.
I'm looking at it right now. It's all 5 stars.
So a lot of 5-star reviews, and we were lucky to get John on this podcast because he's a busy guy. Because
cool.
we have a bar here, and we wanted to have a barman again, throwing together some real cocktails other than just our usual beer and
virtual
kind of stuff.
Mixology classes, at-home cocktail classes, event bartending.
Yeah. So
the virtual is for those companies that might still have people doing it remote.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good team building
cool.
thing. And we send out, if you want, we send out the cocktail kits to all
That's awesome.
all the people.
So you've turned this into a really good business.
Cocktail kits. I just saw that.
Reach out to a lot of people out there. So definitely hit John up if you're interested in doing something fun, because it is a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff. The cocktail he made today was out of this world, knocked it out of the park, man. That was the best whiskey sour I've ever had, bar none.
Love it.
I've never had anything that good.
You've done classes for teams in Brazil, Australia, Switzerland, Canada, Mexico, Italy, Greece, England, Germany, Ireland, Poland, and the United States. Holy shit.
And
wow.
now we'll be doing thank you. We'll be doing for the staff of Air Force One too.
No shit.
Wow, yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
You better get me on that.
So before we go, how did you get this a beautiful opportunity?
So I do not know the ins and outs of Air Force One or anything like that.
You can't tell.
So I'm gonna make a bunch of guesses, and then people can whatever. Because the guy said my team has been responsible for keeping Air Force One at
No
doing
shit.
great.
Well,
So,
congratulations.
I just assume like maybe Air Force One has different teams or something like that. And so he said, hey, can we do a virtual cocktail class at XYZ? And if I give you some stuff, can you like name cocktails after like things that we would know? And so I said, yeah, and he booked the class, and so
That's awesome.
That's
coming
badass.
up, in a couple of weeks, and so I guess I'll have to be back on and give you the ins and outs of.
And their
of
gift
Yeah,
cards
yeah.
are available too.
What's that?
Gift cards are
Oh,
available
yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah, so definitely keep us in the loop how that went. I mean, seriously, we'll do an update on one of our future podcasts we'll give the update to folks watching. So,
Well, you're gonna come back though, right?
Yeah, I'd love to.
so fantastic.
This was
Love
super
to have you
fun.
back. All right, so we're going to wrap things up, folks. Again, check out John Robinson's Dr. Sunshine, his website. A lot of fun things to do, a lot of great education on how cocktails are made. It's really cool. If you're ever interested in that, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks, Brad.
Patrick,
Thank you.
for, again, always being there from Sacramento.
Thanks,
Gene.
Patrick.
Support
And-
your local music and your
Yeah.
local bartenders.
Absolutely. And we will see you next week. I believe we're having Dave Gorman on next week, a local musician. So we'll see you then, everybody. Peace out.
Thank you.